people building blocks for performance. So over to you, Dan. Thank you.
Thanks a million, lads. I'm going to touch just on mental performance and I suppose linking in sports psych and it's chatting to a couple of people before most of you came in there. It's a real area where I don't know what your experience is like in the room, what you've done before, what you haven't done before. But from a general aspect of working with different teams and different athletes over the years, they're quite sceptical. They are quite, tend to be, in a general sense, obviously not everyone, but a little bit sceptical, a little bit like, what is this stuff? It's not a bit wishy-washy. Some of the heads are nodding, so that's a good start anyway. But I get that. And a lot of times, particularly this area, it can be a bit, what does it look like? What's the pathway? How does it all work? Because it is quite a grey and a vague area. And the challenge, I suppose, particularly with mental performance, if we take S&C, for example, it's very easy to look at Bronco results. It's very easy at 1 rep maxes. It's very easy to track this data and see, right, this is working. When it comes into like sports psych and mental performance, unless you've a ridiculous budget and you want to start using EEG machines to measure brain scans, which I don't think any club team is going to fund that out in the next few months. It's hard to measure that and manage that. How does it actually work? So I suppose the aim of my session today, I want you to leave here today with a better understanding, number one, what it is, what it actually looks like, a type of pathway system you could bring teams and athletes on, and some simple things you can use to identify players or when your team might be in that state. And I think if you can leave with that there today, that will be hopefully what you're looking for up your street. There's just a little bit more of what we're going to. But before we get into it and start into it, again, sometimes people don't think it's that important, it doesn't really matter. I want you to imagine this scenario right now, okay? So this is your team. You've never won a championship title at this level in the club's entire history. Can't seem to get into the games, your key players are just not delivering, they're not on point. 60 minutes are up, you're in 3 minutes now of extra time, you're down by 2 points, you're against a clinical, consecutive title-winning machine of team. 62 minutes and 57 seconds on the clock. The opposition and subs are already up on the bench. Look like they've filled up the cup for the 5th time by now already. What percentage do you think is likely you're going to win this game? What do you think? Zero. Most people, would you go above 5-10%? Probably not. Let's watch this. Who was the person who scored? What number was he wearing? Harry Rowland, 17. There's 2 sports psychologists who work with Ballygunner and still work with them today, 2 good friends of mine, Jerry Huston and Tony O'Brien. They've been working with them for 4 years before that game. And the particular person who scored the winning goal wasn't wearing number 17. Wasn't a key player, wasn't a star player, wasn't a performing player. Got a little bit of championship time coming off the bench, nothing major. Wasn't known as this impact survivor. But throughout the year, at one stage during the year, he realised, right, we're not going to make a start now. And he was working with Tony at the time, and he said to Tony, randomly in training one of the sessions, he said, I am going to make a massive positive impact this year. And he said, every morning he used to go, wake up in the morning, every night before he went to bed, he used to constantly say, I'm going to make a massive positive impact in the game this year. Now, he wasn't getting started, he wasn't getting much game time. And it's very easy for a sub or a manager to say, this is what the country is like. But he had this ultimate belief that he's going to make a massive positive impact this year. And now, if you mention the name Ballygunn, most people would probably say the name Harry. To me, this is when we talk about mental performance. 62 minutes, 57 seconds in the clock. How can we be composed, calm, and still back ourselves and have that ultimate belief that we can still win this game? How can players adopt that mindset and live in that space, both on the pitch and off the pitch, and come into that space? Most of us here today say there's not a chance of winning that game. But if Ballygunner went in with that mindset as well, not a chance of going to win this game, do you think he would have scored? Do you think if they hadn't trust that they would have passed it to number 17? No. Sometimes we think mental performance is important. As I say, mental performance won't win you a championship, but it might be that small little margin difference from getting over that and not performing. It's them small little micro moments. That was a micro moment. That player had the ball, seen 17, could easily say, fuck it, he's a social, not the point giving it to him, he's going to miss. He's got to affect all game time this year. If he hadn't that sense of trust, he wouldn't have laid off that ball. Harry Rudden now is coming with the hurl and didn't back himself or trust himself or know that if I fucking miss, at least I've went for it and gone for it. But he trusts himself, he trusts the people, he trusts the teammates, he trusts his managers. Bang, back, and that's the rest is history. Often when we talk about performance, we spend so much time on the three pillars: physical, technical, and tactical. But to me, the two biggest pillars that we actually say on is mental lifestyle. We know these are the 5 performing pillars. And again, these last 2 pieces, just because we can't fully measure it or manage it or get KPIs on it, we kind of forget that it's actually not really important. Often it's not important, it becomes important. And I was chatting to someone before he's all come in. I said, have you ever done anything like this before? I said, oh yeah, we've done something. I said, what did you do? Well, we're 3 weeks out before the championship final. I said, geez, we better get someone in. Most clubs can be guilty of that. I said, geez, we better get someone in there. And to me, that's like, you've been playing a system in a way all year. You're 3 weeks before the championship final. I said, do you know what, we better change our tactics now and start playing this way. It makes no sense, but we think, all right, now I'll start to bring this stuff in. This is what I believe is the actual mental performance pathway, what it looks like. And what I really want you to get from this today is this is where we want to bring teams and athletes on. Level 1 is your basic skill. This is your foundational level. Level 2 is the preparing skill. And this in terms of getting ready, preparing, getting teams and athletes individually. And level 3 is your performance skill. But most of us think that when it comes to sports psychology or mental performance, we just think of this stuff, the cool stuff. Concentration, flow state, managing emotions, and reset routines. Anytime you talk to someone about mental performance, they'll probably mention these things. And to me, when you look at these things, what's the most important part when you build a house?
Foundation.
What's the one part of the house you'll never see? This is the exact same. In a high mental performing team, this is the stuff you'll see, but this is the stuff that will actually hold it together. To me, if you're looking at, well, what's the most important here to have? This is 80%, 10% and 10%. If you haven't got this, this is the foundations and the glue that hold the rest of this together. And it's the fundamental things we spoke about there. We spoke about Harry Rudd being 17, so coming on, taking his opportunity, taking that moment. If he and Ballygunner didn't have a sense of belief, a sense of trust, a sense of connection to the team, a vision of why we're here, why we do this, why we train, why we perform, having a good positive mindset, attitude, having goals and expectations, do you think they would have thought like that in 62 minutes and 57 seconds? That's the difference between high and mental performing teams.
Is there an age that you'd advise the coaches to start younger age groups on level one?
Yeah, there's simple things I kind of go through here later on, but definitely I think, like you asked the question, what's a good age to start with any age? And particularly for our young kids these days, from like even 8, 9, 10 years up, mental health challenges are only getting higher and rising more and more and more. And for me, my belief is sport is a phenomenal opportunity we have to teach these life skills on the pitch, transfer off. So to answer your question, yes, would I go talk maybe to 12-year-olds with arousal states and peak performance? Definitely not. But there's simple things I'll show you later on that you can do and how to kind of bring this in. But when you're looking at it maybe from an early age, to me it's instilling. Can I instill these things? Can I instill a sense of belief in them? Can I instill a sense of trust in themselves and in the team and the coaches? Can I create a connection to them, a sense of fun, enjoyment, laughter, all these things? Does that make sense to them? And to me that's a pathway if you're looking at to bring teams on. Level 1 to level 2 to level 3. Does it mean you just go get everything level 1 then go to level 2? No, you have to read the team that's in front of you, but to try and integrate them simple things. Whereas a lot of teams will just integrate like reset routines and talk about breathing, maybe half time and stuff like this, which will help, but if it hasn't got the foundational things, it just won't work. Okay? So this is what I want to do here now is I'm going to take one little area from each one of these pillars and just go through it a little bit more detail. The idea of today's session, I want you to come away with some practical things. And I'm not a sports psychologist, I'm not a mental performance coach. How the hell am I supposed to do this? Simply it's very simple. It's just not overcomplicated. So I'll take one pillar. We'll look at trust and the basic level skill. We'll look at self-talk on level 2. And we'll look at arousal states on level 3. Okay? The first one, trust. Why is trust important? Often, sometimes we feel we have to instill a sense of fear from teams in order for them to perform. If they're not afraid, if they're not fearful, they won't perform the best. And we do need an element of fear, but just like anything, if there's too much of anything, it's going to hinder the performance rather than promote the performance. What that might look like from fear or trust, fear could be given out for making a mistake and not coach around this awareness. So many times I meet coaches and this often say, he just isn't getting that right. And I'd ask, have you explained that to him and shown him another way of doing it? They say, no. Help create an open and learn environment. The best coaches I've seen, they love when mistakes happen and they promote that in training. They promote, this is brilliant, we're getting better, I love this is class. And it gives other players permission to say, well geez, if I make a mistake, this is actually good because I'm learning. Because most players' mindset is, if I make a mistake, I'm a shit teammate, let the team down, and they'll retract and retreat into themselves. Another way this might look like is the same players only speaking and asking questions. And we all get this in groups. You'll have your general topics. Again, as a coach, it's so important you to pick people out, put people into little different groups, to ask more questions. That just builds more trust, to get them speaking up a little bit more, particularly the quiet people. Making players into robots, we think we have to be very serious and very focused. I'm sure you're all doing it, particularly if you're coaching at an underage level, but even as we start to go up, the way we're coaching, it's encouraging players to have self-expression. Let them have a bit of fun. This is why they're here. And last year I worked with the under-20s, and our keeper, Oisin McDermott, I don't know if anyone knows him, but he's absolutely mad in the head. And most keepers tend to be like, if your keeper's out, no judgment on that as well. But he's absolutely mad in the head. He started to make a couple of mistakes in the goals, kickouts weren't going well, but he started to realise really quick if the first two kickouts didn't go well, he'd start to get a little bit panicked. So I said, right, when you feel you're most relaxed, what do you do? And like, if you see him in a really good mental state, what he's like in the change room, he's coming in, he's laughing, he's dancing, he's doing all this stuff, he's just having a bit of fun. He said, well, when I'm in the change room, I'm dancing, I'm seeing him laughing, I'm having great fun. I said, great, I want you to do that when you start making a mistake. He said, what? I can't do that. I said, why not? Sure, I'm look stupid, look mad. Don't worry about it, just go for it and start doing it. Now, it took him a while to start doing it. But I remember one game, Cotton came up to me. He said, what the fuck are you doing with those shit now? I said, why? You're not taking it seriously. What do you mean? He fucked up 2 kickouts. He started laughing, dancing. What the hell is that? I said, did you say it to him again? He said, no, no. And I explained to him more about when he is performing at his best, he's just having fun, he's out of his head, he's just in it. And when he's dancing, singing, that's what he's like. He's like, oh, that makes sense. So again, getting the lads to express themselves and just have a bit of fun is where you perform at your best. Sometimes we need to be really serious, really focused, really hard, which we need an element of that, but too much of that in our performance. The big one for me is making everyone feel mattered. It's such a simple thing, it's so important. There's times even in my own time of playing that it might be a game coming on and say, right, 1 to 15, 1 Jim McGuinness, 2 so and so, right, everyone else just grab a jersey. What does that communicate to them? You 15 matter, but ye 5, 6, 7, you can be here, but you don't really matter. You have to make everyone feel mattered. When they feel mattered, we talked about what? We talked about the bottom there is trust. I trust this person, they actually care about me, they actually want me to be better. And often if you can instill that at an early age, you know better than me, their level of performance might not be at their best when they're 10 and 12, but they might peak at 14 and 16. But if we don't instill that trust at 10 and 12, they might say, this isn't for me, or I'm no good at football, and then they develop a belief system, sure I'm no good. And we could have lost that 14, 16, 18 when they would have peaked. Instilling trust and making everyone feel matters is so, to me it's the most important thing about it. And I know it's hard to do, but it's just even simple things like that. Even giving out the bibs, sometimes you'd say, right, same with jerseys, you grab this bit, you grab that bit, right? Everyone else, you grab orange and blue, whatever. Kids know, I know, we all know at that level, is kind of hear what we're doing. Make everything feel matter. Why is this important? Has anyone seen this before? No. This is the comfort zone model. It's what we use in sports psychology. The reason why this is important, without trust, players will never reach their full potential from a technical and tactical reason. Why? So when you want someone to perform a certain technical skill or a certain tactical way of playing, what do they like when they first do it? When they first start to try it, what do they like? Are they good at it? No, they're poor. They're really poor. And of course they're going to be, because it's learning, it's development. Why trust is so important. If I trust my coach, if I trust my teammates, in order for me to learn new skills, what do I have to be at the start? I have to be bad at it. I can't be good at a new skill at the start. So if I have a sense of trust, I am not going to try new things. I'm not going to try that way. I'm going to retreat and retract and play what's comfortable and familiar. The red zone here on the left is the comfort zone. So this is where we feel safe and in control. In order to develop any skill on the pitch or off the pitch, it's only by moving through these layers you can get to the place where it becomes what we call automatic. They're on it, they're just on it, you get to that point. But they can't skip from red to green. They have to go through that process. So in the red zone is where we feel safe, control, it's the comfort zone. We move out of that, we go into fear zone. This is the most important part of it all, because in this is where we lack self-confidence, which is not what this skill is. We'll find excuses, or we can be affected by other people's opinions. This happens if we haven't that most important thing, trust. If we have trust, we can allow players to get into this space, which will happen, but they're able to process it better, they're able to regulate themselves better, they don't get as attached. When they think about it, is they go into the learning zone. This is where they're starting to kind of get it. They're very about 70-80%. They're dealing with challenges and problems, they've acquired new skills, they've extended that comfort zone now, and then they get to the automatic phase where they're just on it, able to do it. Having trust is so important for them first 3 places, because if we haven't got that, we can't move fully to their potential to meet that. Does that make sense now? Any questions about that? Stop at any time or ask any questions about that. And I'll answer some at the end, so I should start at the start as well. But this is why, for me, trust is such an important, not just from a connection thing or to make people feel matter. If you actually want to perform technically, tactically at the best, that trust needs to be a core foundation of it all. Moving on to level 2, preparing skills. So this is where, right, we've done a little bit of work in level 1, the foundations, the core things that hold everything solid together. This is preparing. So when I look at this is at an athlete level individually or team collectively. How do they prepare to get at their best? How do they get at their most optimal level? One of the biggest things, again, when we talk about sports psychology, is talking about things like self-talk. Has everyone kind of heard that term before? It's become a bit of a buzzword last year with podcasts, soccer players, and all these things jumping up. One of the lines that I use with every team that I work with is the words we say become the way we play. Everything we say will become the way we play. Because every thought that we think is driving a conscious program in your brain to make that decision. And the more you start thinking like that, that's how neuroscience works. You think of something, brain, electrical signal fires in the brain, is rapidly reminded, and the more we start to do that is what we call a habit. That's how it works. And this is why the words we say become so important. One of the questions you ask here, well, how would I bring this in with a team? One of the things that I do with some teams, particularly younger teams, is I might talk them a bit about self-talk, the reason why it's important, what it does. And what I'll do is on a whiteboard or something like that, I'll have good self-talk and negative self-talk. I'll literally get them to write down on the whiteboard what that looks like. So get them to identify, what does good self-talk mean? What does it mean when you're in negative self-talk? What does that look like? Because if we can build awareness around for these players, the difference it can make. It can be that 1 or 2 or 3 players that had the potential, they just kind of slipped away. It gives them that ability to perform. One of the things we want to look at here is task-focused language compared to outcome-focused language. Does anyone know what that means? Task-focused language compared to outcome.
More process-based rather than looking at the destination.
Exactly. Brilliant. More process-based rather than destination. So breaking that down into, we have to win this game into what's the process that allows us to win that game. When we talk about task-based language, it's things we can control. When we talk about outcome language, it's things we can't control. We have to win this game. Make sure you win the first ball. Make sure you get that one in. When we say things like this, it gives the athlete something that they actually can't control, and that can create anxiety. Present tense language rather than past or future tense language. Present tense, I am, I can, I will. Past tense, I should have done that. Or just don't do that. Make sure you move and make that decision. Make sure you don't do this. It's identifying and allowing players to see when they did into that. A coach or a critic, and again, team mantras related to team vision and why rather than fear-based slogans. We've got to win this game. You know how important this game is. We have to win it. Creating something that, again, is process-based language is massive. Does that make sense to it? Any questions on that? Sure. We'll hold your peace.
So just quite, a lot of stuff is, like as a team, like your goals would have to try to be that task focused. Like we asked the players this year what they wanted, certain players, what they want to do. They want to, we lost the final last year, they want to win that final 100%, but that's not really the goal. We never set out to get to the final in the first place, so it's all about the building blocks to get you, give you a good chance at it. So it is a lot about goals as well. It's not associated to your goals as a team or as an individual.
Yeah, and it's not that like let's be honest, when we play football or when we play sport, what do we want to do? We want to win, of course we want to win. But if we overemphasize the winning over performance and connection and all these different things, that's what really matters. When we lost the All-Ireland semi-final to Kerry last year, I asked 4 of the lads, what is the thing that you most enjoyed about this year? Not one of them mentioned in the next play. Not one. Because although that was amazing and phenomenal, great for the first time 23 years in the 20, it was the small things that mattered. And how much, they said the coaching was phenomenal, they've never got coaching like that in the long run. They said the fun that they had, the connection that they had, how much fitter they felt, all these things. And yeah, it's about, to me, marrying them loving two together about all that stuff. Level 3, looking at now, is performance skill. So then, I suppose when we're looking at this is more sort of the in-game stuff, the things that can happen, or when we're in the dressing room, this kind of stuff. One of the big things that I love to work on with every team is, you'll see me wearing these bands, green zone and red zone. The All Blacks have a saying on this. Anyone that ever looked at kind of the All Black stuff with Dan Carter, or some of you might have, they call it blue zone and red zone. This is a really powerful even image to use and give your teams or different athletes to allow them to understand why they're in the position that they're in. So what arousal states mean, it means the kind of, I suppose, the energy or the focus or the level of importance of what we bring into our game or training scenario. On the left is the grey zone. So this is where you might call it we're in autopilot. We're a bit tired, we're kind of a bit distracted, we're here but we're not really here, or maybe we're a bit bored, we're just a bit in routine. When we're in this, our performance starts to drop. When we go over to the right hand side, which is the red zone, this is where what I would say we're overhyped. We're too nearly anxious in a way. This is where we might be afraid, alarmed, frustrated and anxious. One of the most important things, I think, particularly as a coach, if you want to bring something like this in, is even just, again, having this image to allow lads to identify, oh, so this is why I'm here. It gives them empowerment over their own state and where they are and to know what to do. The ultimate place we want to try to get to is the green zone. So this is where we're thinking, we're on task, we're present, we're alert, we're relaxed, but we're not too relaxed, we're excited, but we're not over energized or overstressed nearly. We're just in that optimal state. What people might hear that in another term is called flow state, where everything is just operating in that one place. Having athletes identify what happens to them in games or where they at in this is a huge one. Particularly for this one here. You'd be so surprised, even athletes who get to 20, 21, or even in their prime part of their career, they don't even realise when they make a mistake that this starts to happen. And you might think, sure, that's common, sure, it's clearly obvious. It's obvious to you looking on, but it's not obvious to them in it. So allowing them to identify when they're in that space is a huge thing. Once you harm them and say, right, I know I'm here, next one I'll show you is how you can actually start to work on that. I know I'm here, and now I know how to get there. One of the things we spoke about at the start was with Ballygunner. It was to give them the tools, the belief, the trust and the connection in order for them to perform at the best. Do you think the Ballygunner people were in this zone, or this zone at 62 minutes and 57 seconds? Which zone do you think they're in? Green. Probably, they're obviously all not on green, definitely. But they're probably touching red and touching green and elements of both. And by able to access and understand that, that's where the outside environment, what's happening in the game, the scoreline, doesn't affect the internal environment. That's the goal. That's the place where and that's powerful. For so many of us, we often talk to teams here, we have a really good belief in the team. And I say, why? We won our last 10 games. That's not belief, that's control. Belief, what does belief mean? Belief means trusting in something regardless of what is happening on the outside. It's trusting in that process. Having like athletes and teams know when they're in this state is a massive thing because it's going to allow them to empower them to make different decisions. So when they're in the grey zone, which is left, what we want to do is we want to drive their energy up. We want to get them a bit more up. We want to get them there. When they're in the red zone, they're up here. So I want to get them just down a little bit more calm, a little bit more slow, just slow things down. So what does that look like? Grey, generate, red, regulate. It's an easy way to remember. So from the grey zone, I need to generate, and from the red zone, I need to regulate. Here are some simple things that you can bring in to help athletes and teams, and this can be done at any age, to bring this in. If we're looking at the grey zone, anything that raises their heart rate, go on a hard sprint, push there really quick, high energy music. One of the best things to do, particularly in a warm-up or stuff like that, you just notice they're a little bit off, reaction-based stuff. So good, even simple little things you can do just to get them a little bit more on task and focus. Visualization, body language, even talking to them about body language. Say, oh, sure, everyone knows that, but do we, man? Even mention simple things. What's your body language like? Constantly do it and reaffirm these things all the time, over and over and over. Just because you do it once, twice, or 3 times doesn't mean you know it. We need it all the time. Self-talk, set a goal, task at hand. Fast breathing techniques is actually really good. It brings them up a little bit quicker, whereas we usually think of breathing as slow down, whereas a fast breathing, you're actually trying to get the heart rate a little bit higher. Focus on the next task. Shout, even just creating a bit of noise in the dressing room. Simple. When we talk about the red zone, we want to regulate. So what do you want to do? We want to bring them back. Things we talk about there is deep, slow breathing, Meath. One of the things that we brought in the 20s the last few years is something called Meath, which stands for breath, energy, expression, focus. Breath, you get tuned into your breath. Energy, what's their energy like? Are they flat-footed? Are they slow? Are they on their toes? Are they here? Expression, what's the story in their head? Is it tired of rent? Or is it, I can do this, this is easy, all day? Focus, is there focus on what happened, where they have to get it, or is it focus on the next task? Breath, energy, expression, focus. Simple. Progressive muscular relaxation. Even if you have a team after doing really hard running or something like that, bring them all in around a circle. Get them to take a breath in, squeeze their fist, do that 3 times. Get to lower your cortisol levels by up to 30 to 40% after just 3 breaths alone. Massive. Why is that important? Well, if your heart rate's lower, you have more energy, you have your own quicker as well. It's physical and mental for actually working on it. Visualization, challenging negative self-talk, process focus, not outcome focused, and take rest and breaks of play. This is the stuff you will see, particularly at a high performance level, where you see, if you watch a lot of the World Cup, a lot of the Ireland team at times, with ball when they play, and you'll see it, they get in a circular huddle and they take breaks, and taking breaths and breaks of play. Win, that's a mantra that I'd always use with most teams. In order for me to win at this situation, what's important then? Simple. If I'm to win at this, what's important then? That's even on these bands, we get them printed on. So if we're in a game scenario, and even encourage players to do that as well, take up the risk and just have something wrote down. Or to win, what's important now. It's a team mantra that you might have, and repeating these sayings consistently all the time is massive. Shaking as well is a simple one. If they're really stressed, if they're really in that state, what did I get Oisin McDermott to do? Sing and dance. Why? because he's shaking it out. He's moving all that tension out of his body. And it's all that simple stuff. Does that make sense? One of the common things when I go to coaches or say about some of this stuff that we work on, they say, I get it's important, but I have enough time to do it. It's too complicated. I have enough time. It's way too complicated to do it. And you're not going to sit down, particularly with a bunch of 12-year-olds, and say, right lads, we're just sit down there for 45 minutes, we're going to go through these 20 slides, or obviously that's not going to happen. If it is, there's some magic that a lot of parents want. One of the simple things you can do is, you know what, let's actually just do it now, okay? How many times? What I want you to do, how many have we got? 40? Cool. If we jump into groups 8 to 10 real quick, just 8 to 10 there real quick. You might just push the chairs, groups of about, okay? Groups of about 8 to 10, okay? I get when we come to coaches and stuff like this, particularly even with any team at all, there is a lot going on, there's a lot you're trying to fit in, and it's hard to maybe bring some of this stuff in. What we're going to do now is show you 2 simple examples of something you can do in less than 6 to 7 minutes within training already. We're out in the pitch, if they're doing a warm-up, whatever else. First thing we're going to do is working on this bottom part called the pillar. So if we look at this performance pillar again, we look at this performance pillar again. The bottom things we talk about: belief, trust, connection between itself. Connection and actually trusting each other, knowing each other is such an important thing. So we all have our groups here: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Perfect. Okay. Any more than tickets left? No.
Objects?
Yeah. See, have you 2 more tickets to go? You give out another 2 tickets to get in, I believe. The VIP box. Perfect. There's 2 tickets going in the VIP box for the next game. For the winning team, but there's 8 people in the team, so that should be 8 tickets now as well. What I want you to do, okay? We're going to have a bit of a challenge. First team to get everyone in a row, starting with the months of their birthday from the top to bottom. Order in a row. Does that make sense? Yeah. First team to win, get 8 VIP tickets. And a free going at my other way as well. That makes sense? Right, in 4 minutes. Go! Move! Go! March. August. When can you say February? July. Yeah, you second guess that one.
November.
Right. Spread out again. Groups of 2. Groups of 2 now. Groups of 2. You need a bit more space for this one. Move your chairs right out. Move the space. Right out. Yeah. Simple little game. This is a little reaction thing you can do in training if you find players are off task. So what you're going to do, don't stand in the same spot, hands up. What you're trying to do is you're trying to push the other person off the foot. Now, no fucking rugby tackle. Okay? You push the other person. The only rule is you can't go body contact. You know, if you hands on, so try to push me over. Go. Okay? That makes sense? Yeah. Go. Into. Good. Go. See if you can score a goal. Easy. Can't move your feet. Hands. You have to stay clear. You have to stay clear. Take a breath. Lines up. How long did them two things take? Couple of minutes. What does the energy feel like in the room now? There's a bit more energy, a bit more buzz, a bit more life, isn't there? People who you never met probably this morning, you know them a little bit better. You walk down the street saying, "Jeez, your birthday's coming up in 3 weeks." I might not know your name, but I know your birthday's coming up in 3 weeks. There's a bit more of a connection in the room. You don't have to make these things overcomplicated. Something as simple as that done in 5 minutes completely shifts the energy in the group. What did we just work on? We worked on connection to team and self. We worked on trust. We worked on, what else we worked on? We worked on concentration, flow state, managing arousal states. We worked on all of these simple little things. It just took a couple of minutes. You don't have to make this overcomplicated. These simple things, a lot of time even just done in training, a couple of minutes in the warm-up drills, just changes the energy in the group. Whereas most people say, the energy's shite tonight. What are you doing then? Do something practical that can move and shift and change and have a bit of fun, and have a bit of crack, create that connection in the group. And all of these things can just be done simply in a way to help fill this in. I'd love to spend tons more time with you, but if you want, I've left a sheet here today. You can sign at the end of the day. I'll get Jenny to send me a photo or whatever. I have about 10 or 20 different little tasks you can do like that. So if you want, pop your name, your email, and I'll send them to you on, so you can do them at any stage. But I want you today just to get a little bit more insight into, right, I know what mental performance actually means now, what it kind of looks like, the different maybe levels to it, and maybe how it can bring this in with a team in a more simplified way. Does that make sense? So I hope you got something from today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, of course, I'm more than happy to answer. But Carmina will have it. That sheet up there, at any stage, you can pop your name down and email. I think, like even from my own, the reason why I got into this work is I all constantly with fear and anxiety. If I made a mistake, the only thing I want to do is either pass the ball straight away or else pray the ball doesn't come to my corner. So a lot of the time when I was playing football, that's the way I played, which is why I get into this work. So one of the things, if I look back at my own time, would that slide I even had up with the arousal states, if someone had told me that, I actually would normalise and say, so this is normal. So I think the biggest thing is for them to create an environment that it's normal to have this, it's natural to have nerves, and not to be afraid of it. The other thing is also to normalise mistakes. If you look at the All Blacks, and I talk about to use that redhead. A lot of what I do is green head, redhead. I can probably do but we haven't suited yet, so do okay. But one of the things they always mention is that in the game, there's going to be times where you're naturally going to get into that redhead state. That's where made a mistake or you're anxious, you're nervous. And it's not about that not happening. It's about when it happens, what's the tools you can use to get yourself back up. So to me, it's educating them on that's normal. Number two, it's also educating that it's going to happen. Because sometimes we create fear-based environments and just hope that doesn't happen. It's going to happen. Athletes at the top of the game get into this pit all the time as well.
Probably not zoning in and saying, get the first ball, but that first ball might be coming. You don't get it, it's the second or third ball. You know what I mean? You don't just bring everything up.
And the way I describe them is how do you get it first of all? They're on their feet, they're hand on, their eyes, their contact. It's breaking down the technical and the process rather than saying, win the first ball, make sure you get that throw in. We have to be the first ones to score. When we do that, it creates this pressure that we can influence that, but we can't control that. So what we can control is the task.
Probably what's common is that when the game is on, we like a lot of big nerves versus with running. You know, when you get in the game, then it's all the time.
Yes, I think the biggest thing is just educating them on something simple as that. And it's even like, you know, when we did that pass there, and I got you all to stand up. What's the talk about today? Be honest.
Shit.
Shit. Good. Did your heart rate increase? What did it feel like when you done it then?
That is good.
Even educating them on that little piece there. You literally do that same task and say, when I asked us to stand up, what did that feel like? Someone said, God, I said, oh, we don't look stupid here. Hopefully I make a show of myself. What was your heart rate like? Jeez, I'm starting to sweat. I was nervous. What do you feel like now? Fine. That's what happens in the game. Even something simple as that can just change. Any other questions? I just don't want to be taking over more time.
You're on overtime now.
Yes, sorry.
You find like obviously teaching players a level of self-awareness because one individual gets worried and another one's too calm on the pitch or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that a continuous thing throughout the season, or do you have milestones or whatever?
Say that again, sorry. So,
Are you teaching the same thing throughout the season, or do you teach it at the start of the season, say body-based practices, you know, it's your heart's racing or whatever, or is it intermittent, like you have a pathway on it?
pathway is good. Like what I'll say to most teams, rather than 3 weeks out before the final and start to do this now. Start the year, can you plan in 4 to 5 sessions you want to fit this in throughout the year? What's the 4 to 5 pieces you might focus on? And let's say you do the first one, that could be 15 minutes before training session, you just do a little bit of this. On the next one, you spend the first 10 minutes reviewing the last one, and then the next one comes up and you do 10 minutes of that. Something simple like that is a good way to do it, and it's a good point because some people will naturally go to different ways. So I know for me, I was the one who retracted and retreated, said don't pass the ball. Another fellow would just go up or a girl would just go up and mat for a fight. So we all react in different ways, and it's for players to identify what does that look like. That makes sense. Any other questions, feel free to, if you pop your name in that sheet, I'll be sending an email out anyway, so send me over an email before that. Thank you.
Thank you.